When Josh D'Amaro told 12,000 fans over at D23 that Villains Land was coming to Walt Disney World, he said that dirt was already being moved. Well, it turns out permits are being filed to fill in the rivers of America. If it's the same project, they just hit a big snag, and that's the state of Florida saying, no, 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 we need a lot more information, like environmental study type information, before you can do anything and touch this beautiful part of Disney World. Now, let's talk about whether or not Disney even has the time to do this before it's automatically denied here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is intrepid environmental activist, Mr. VashSky. Vash, you're a big fan of the Captain Planet there, right?
I am, yes, absolutely. I don't know what ring I get, but definitely a fan of the Captain Planet, that is for sure. I don't know if I'm an environmentalist by any means, but, I'll go ahead and represent them today. That's fine, Jonas.
I'm a conservationist, I'll say that. I am a Rivers of America conservationist. This man-made but beautiful part of Walt Disney World here. Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island demolition project hits snag. State requests significant changes to permits. This out of Blog Mickey. I'm sure it is by Mike, who appears to be the only author there at Blog Mickey. Nothing against him, just saying the odds are he's written it. Walt Disney World has not yet received initial state approval for its Frontierland expansion project, which will include demolition of the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island. Yes, this is like one of those 90s movies where the evil people in the business suits and the slick back hair and those giant GTE brick phones comes out, and they have all the evil people coming out, and you got all these little kids with their scrappy baseball team, and they want to save the Sandlot here. This is what I picture when I picture these people coming in to demolish Rivers of America. Anyways, demolition is required to prepare the land for a Cars-themed expansion and eventually a Villains Land in Magic Kingdom. I'm going to say Josh D'Amaro did say dirt was already being moved. Am I right, or am I misremembering there, Vash?
No, I think you called it out thusly. Josh D'Amaro did say that shovels in the ground and dirt's already being moved on some of this stuff. And well, as Mike actually reported, at least when it comes to the Rivers of America project, there wasn't any sign of any activity there. Many trees were still up and so forth. So we were all kind of questioning just how shovel ready is this?
Right. And there's, of course, the Tropical Americas Land, which we know that they're actually moving dirt on that one. I do believe they're already constructing the umbilicus over there at Disney's Animal Kingdom. But they talk about that one as not beginning construction until later. So we're very suspicious when they said dirt was already being moved. It could be perhaps that was a misrepresentation of what's actually happening. Who knows with the Disney company? Let's continue on, though. The state of Florida has sent Disney a 6-page letter outlining dozens of faults in the initial application, which is related to water management actions that Disney has proposed to allow for an expansion of Frontierland. The state is asking Disney to make modifications to the permit within 90 days, or the permit application will be denied. Let's take a closer look at what that means. Do they get to use one of my favorite acronyms here? Yep. It's down here. It's the South Florida Water Management District. By the way, when I grew up, I thought it was the Southwest Florida Water Management District because we called it SwiftMud back in the day. Vash is hearing about this for the first time. This is one of those Florida resident things. When you hit the 6th grade, you're allowed to go to a project called Nature's Classroom, where you go and do hiking trails and go learn about all the snakes that are local to the area and go out on the river with guides. And that was all put together by what we called SwiftMud. I had assumed that the W in SwiftMud came before the F for some reason. But whatever, here we are. Walt Disney World's Villains Land and Frontierland expansion permit hits snag. Back on August 12th, Walt Disney World filed water management permits with the state of Florida, outlining the first steps it would need to take to construct a Cars-themed Frontierland expansion and Villains Land at Magic Kingdom. The permit proposed an impact on wetlands of more than 300 acres, although much of the work would take place outside of the Magic Kingdom boundaries, sometimes called a berm. As Disney created water management facilities in the area to allow for land preparation within the world's busiest theme park. In essence, Disney wanted to construct 3 laydown yards to stage construction materials and equipment. These laydown yards would be built on marginally unsuitable land near the Rivers of America. Notice the quotes here. Marginally unsuitable, and the northwest section of the Magic Kingdom along the tracks of the Walt Disney World Railroad. For more on that, they do have an article on that. It's a great article, by the way. We covered it here on the channel.
It just real quickly, you can see these laydown yards and where they would roughly be located within proximity to the Magic Kingdom itself.
Yep. Turning our attention back to this latest development, Walt Disney World received a request for additional information letter from sfwmd yesterday, September 11th. The letter was delivered via email to Walt Disney World with employees at the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District and other companies copied. So, as we might have suspected, it would be cftod, which, that's that Ron DeSantis trying to stop everything Disney does, right? Supposedly. No, I don't think that's how this works, actually. I think the cftod relationship is actually going to be a good one. Disney might not view it favorably because it's not a puppet government set up, 60 years ago that does whatever it wants, but it is at least an excellent economic condition for them. It's sfwmd that has the issue here. The 6-page letter outlines 20 requests from the state. Wow, that's longer than 12, including a seemingly significant change of the permit type from an individual environmental resource permit into a conceptual permit with broader construction implications and additional information about the work that Walt Disney World will be doing. Broadly speaking, the RAI asked Disney to provide updated information about the construction that will happen after this phase of development and how it will impact water quality in the area. That sounds a lot like an environmental impact study, Vash.
I would say so. I would say it very much does sound like an environmental impact study. However, when we look at like EIRs, for example, out there in Anaheim, it's not necessarily the environment per se, but just like the impacts on the city, the impacts on traffic, those kind of things. This is very much environmentally related. And this was kind of the big concern when the RCID transformed into cftod, because it kind of put an emphasis on all of these points in a way that it really hadn't before. Remember, the Everglades passes right through Walt Disney World property, and so it is unbelievably important to the ecosystem of the Central Florida area. So the idea that Disney didn't have all-encompassing control of this area, and now they were under scrutiny from multiple state entities, that really is a big upending of how things traditionally worked out here within this district.
Right, and for those of you who are not aware, this was constructed by the Disney company, but that does not mean it is not now a natural habitat within the Disney parks here, Magic Kingdom specifically. Although it really is Walt Disney World, because if you follow these waterways out, it just goes right out to the Seven Seas Lagoon. So, and as we all know, the Seven Seas Lagoon is an active wildlife habitat. I'm not saying it's a protected habitat, but they patrol those waters to try to make sure that they reduce any dangerous animals that Floridians assume are in every Florida water source.
Oh, yeah. So, well, that's a very good point right there. But the Walt Disney Company really took an environmentalist position when it came to the construction of Walt Disney World, not because they were bleeding hearts, let's say, but they had just suffered the loss of the Mineral King project for environmentalist reasons. And so it was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and get ahead of some of this, of these environmentalist groups that were coming online in the late 60s, early 1970s. And it was like, okay, well, we know that a large portion of this land isn't necessarily suitable for building anyway. Let's go ahead and dedicate a portion of it to be reserved for wildlife and the environment and so forth, that it won't be developed. And it's not necessarily dedicated by location per se, but it's actually dedicated by acreage. That's why the Walt Disney Company will add to the Walt Disney World boundaries, or they'll buy land and then they'll set that aside for reserved portions of the land, and they'll do a lot of manipulating in order to get around that. Mm-hmm. But it was a concern that they had early on that the construction and development in Walt Disney World would have impacts on the environment, but that had never really been placed under scrutiny until now.
Yep. Now, for those of you who are not aware or you're having trouble because of the context here, so obviously this is Big Thunder Mountain. This is Tiana's Bayou Adventure right here, formerly Splash Mountain. Used to have the iconic Chicken Hill there. There's a little bear habitat right here. Those just got saved. They were on the endangered list. And now the Hall of Presidents right here are endangered. And of course, Haunted Mansion. I always like to point out the distance here between Big Thunder Mountain and Haunted Mansion. That's actually not that far here. So the distance between the Country Bears and the entrance to Tiana's Bayou Adventure is actually pretty close here, similar in distance, and you wouldn't think about them being that far. The waterway, obviously, I'm assuming that this must be a drawbridge here, because this is, or it's tall enough that the riverboat can go out this way. Is this where the dry dock is, right here?
Yes, yeah. The dry dock is just beyond the Walt Disney World Railroad that separates Rivers of America from Seven Seas Lagoon and that whole thing. So that
is it a drawbridge? I don't know if it is. I think it may be, but I'm not sure. I've never actually been able to look there. Vash, do you know?
Actually, don't know about.
I'm sure someone in the comments will help us out there. Let's continue on that. One of the points of concern that was highlighted as being of concern to the staff is that of the hydro period, or period of time in which it takes a particular area to flood. Staff said they were concerned that the finished elevations would adversely impact the hydro period of the surrounding wetlands, and they asked for graphs that would display pre-development hydrology and post-development hydrology. State is also requesting information on dewatering operations, noting that the initial application appears to indicate that dewatering will take place. It's likely they're referring to the draining of the rivers of America. The state said that any surface water applications will not be considered complete until formation is received about that. In total, the state is requesting a lot of information from Disney before they can consider approving the application. And Disney has 90 days to respond before the application is automatically denied. In our time covering Walt Disney World, we've not seen an RAI that has been this lengthy. That said, acreage impact is also one of the more significant impacts we've encountered. This is that's a big ask. I don't know that Disney is prepared to respond to this within 90 days, but they do have a lot of money and they have a good relationship with the state of Florida, I think, for the most part, when it comes to the actual interaction here, if they choose to. I don't know. Vash, do you think that this is going to hold up the, is this a stay of execution for the Rivers of America?
It might very well be. I mean, the state is asking in order to get people on the ground there, in order to look over these wetlands and some of these impacted areas themselves. They're looking for a ton of information regarding these laydown yards that Disney wants to dedicate and set aside for this work. We were concerned ourselves, Jonas, about what would happen if the Rivers of America were drained permanently, and what kind of impact that would have on the surrounding environment there. There's a lot here. There's a lot here to chew on, and I don't think Walt Disney World or Disney themselves were ready to take the bite necessarily.
Right, and we've seen indications of Imagineers saying that having water in the parks is essentially a liability. It doesn't generate any revenue for the parks, and in fact, we do know that they have to do work to maintain the basin here for the Rivers of America. Yet another reminder that this is not a natural water body of water here at the park. So Disney will have to pay money to do something with the Rivers of America. The last time I think they did that work, it was maybe 4 years ago at this point. Don't sweat me on the timeline there. It wasn't an attraction I was looking for at the time. But we want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about this? Is this something that will delay them past that 90 days and then they'll have to come back actually prepared to turn in their homework? Or
is Ron DeSantis going to save the Rivers of America? Wouldn't that be a twist of fate? Huh?
That would be interesting. I would expect Ron DeSantis to do something about that pedestrian walkway for the Shades of Green first myself, but I'm still waiting to hear back on if anything's going to be done about that. But of course, we want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about this situation? Do you think that Tom Sawyer Island is saved here? Let us know your thoughts down there. And of course, like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.